everybody, this is Rudy Sarzo, and you listen to Diary of the Madman podcast right here. Come back and listen to it some more.
Hello, and welcome back to Diary of the Madman, the ultimate Ozzy Osbourne podcast, where we discuss all things Ozzy and Ozzy related. I am Josh Crum, and as always, with us is Dan Drago. How's it going, Dan?
Doing amazing. How you doing, Josh?
Doing good, man. You know, you and I are buzzing. We just got off the phone with today's guest, Mr. Rudy Sarzo, and man, what an epic interview that was. I can't wait for the listeners to hear it.
Yeah, that was an amazing interview. Rudy is a gentleman. What a great guy, filled with great stories. The listeners are going to just eat this up.
Absolutely. He comes on, and the first thing he asked us, he said, how long do you guys usually like to go? And we're like, well, it's up to you. He's like, well, it's whatever you think. And we're like, 45 minutes. And next thing I know, I look at the clock, and we've been on the phone with him for over an hour and a half almost. So it was
like an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, it's crazy.
So it was like, okay, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. But no, he was absolutely excellent. I can't wait to get the feedback from the listeners on what they think about this one.
Yeah, and I'm super excited he's back in Quiet Riot. Can't wait to get out there and support Rudy for sure.
For sure. And as he, tells us in the interview, at Frankie Banali's wishes for him to rejoin the group. So I thought that was really cool. Totally excited for it, man. He's such a great guy, and it's where he needs to be at this point in his life. It's Quiet Riot's part of his soul, the same as it is, Randy and Kevin Dubrow and Frankie Banali's also.
Yeah, no question. And also, please don't forget his amazing autobiography, Off the Rails. It is a fantastic read. Josh and I bought it right when it first came out. I actually think I bought it before it even had a publisher. I might have bought it directly from Rudy when it originally first came out. Please pick it up. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite, Ozzy book. It has great behind-the-scenes stories that we even get to on the interview. But please support Rudy, Quiet Riot, and Off the Rails.
Yeah, I think I have those early pressings also. I got it right when it came out, and I want to say it was 2006. And I'm looking at my copy right now, and it doesn't have a publisher on it. So It's an amazing read. If you're a Randy Rhoads fan especially, or even just an Ozzy fan in general, he does like day by day. He kept diaries, and he wrote this book through those diaries, and it's absolutely stellar. It's matter of fact, it's my favorite of any of them. If you take Ozzy's book or Tony or Zach, any of them,
way better.
This one's my favorite one of all of them. And I don't just say that because he's our guest tonight. Like, it's an amazing read. If you've not checked it out, definitely purchase that one.
It's amazing in how honest he is. And I really, really respect and admire that from Rudy.
Yeah, Rudy finds a way to be honest without being an asshole.
Yeah, great point.
He's really great about telling the truth, but without offending everybody. It's a great characteristic of his. Can't wait to get feedback from the listeners on the interview.
So before we get to the interview, as promised, Josh and I have worked up our top 10 albums of the year for 2021. Again, it can't be a reissue, or, of course, Ozzy's 40th anniversary Diary of Madman would top both of our lists. And it cannot be a best of, a live album. It's got to be a true studio record that was released in 2021. I'm really excited to hear Josh's, but I really want the listeners to kind of see how the roads lead to Ozzy. Because me and Josh actually, even though we have a lot of similar tastes, we have a lot of different tastes as well. And you're going to see that within that list. So, Josh, why don't you start us off? What is your number 10 album of the year?
At least he assumes they're different. He hasn't seen my list.
No, I have not, but I can just... I bet you half of my list, Josh, is going to say, who the hell is that?
Guaranteed. Number 10 for me is Light the Torch with You Will Be the Death of Me. I'm a big fan of Howard Jones. Continue to be a fan in his latest project with Light the Torch.
My number 10 is Evergrey, Escape of the Phoenix. I am a huge fan of Tom Englund. I think he's got one of the coolest voices in modern heavy metal. Still one of the best progressive power metal bands out there.
Number 9 for me is the return of Raw, Intercorrupted. And definitely enjoyed this one. And it's good to see them make a return after about a 10-year hiatus.
My number 9 is a band called Tribulation. And the album is called Where the Gloom Becomes Sound. And Tribulation is a great, dark, gothic black metal band. They have a lot of melody in their music. Fantastic listen.
Number 8 for me is Servant of the Mind by Volbeat. Big Volbeat fan, a lot of groove in their music. I continue to enjoy all of their releases, man. They're the gift that keeps on giving for me.
My number 8 is Halloween. I was super excited about this. I'm a huge fan of the band, probably the best power metal band of all time. You know, it had the return of Kai Hansen and their singer Michael Kiske, and I was super excited they were back in the band. This album did not disappoint. It was everything I wanted and then some, and this ranks at number 8. Great record.
Number 7 for me is KK's Priest with Sermons of the Sinner. Really proud of KK for this one. I think they absolutely did a stellar job of putting out a Judas Priest style metal record in 2021 with Ripper Owens on vocals. Some of the critique is that the lyrics are shitty and cheesy. I love shitty, cheesy lyrics. So it's right up my alley. KK's Priest, Sermons of the Sinner.
My number 7 really hit me out of nowhere. I was not familiar with this band until this year, but it is Bewitcher, Cursed by Thy Kingdom. It is a fantastic black speed metal record with a ton of melody and, more importantly, wonderful guitar playing. This band came out of nowhere for me, and I am in love with this record. Bewitcher, Cursed by Thy Kingdom.
Number 6 for me is Beartooth with Below. I had seen Beartooth a few times live at festivals, never really paid them a lot of attention. This album kept getting a lot of press, a lot of word of mouth, so I checked it out, and I became a fan. Now I'm diving back into their older material. Below by Beartooth, number 6.
My number 6 is actually Iron Maiden's Senjutsu. You know, when it first came out, I was kind of on the fence about it. This is a great record, and it continues to get better with more listens, and I like records like that, some that make you really have to dive in, and definitely all modern Iron Maiden does that. But Senjutsu, I think it's a fantastic record. Their best since Brave New World.
Number 5 for me was the solo album from Jerry Cantrell called Brighton. Big fan of that one. It definitely has the Alice in Chains feel, but it sounds and feels like a solo record also. It's kind of different at the same time. I love it.
My number 5 is one of my favorite modern bands. It is Mastodon and Hushed and Grim. It is another listen that at first I didn't think it was as good as the previous few, but it really grew on me in a very, very positive way. It also has my favorite song of the year in a song called Gigantium. It ends the record, and it might be my favorite Mastodon song. It is fucking fantastic.
Okay, it brings me to number 4, and for this one, I'm going with Wolfie Van Halen and his Mammoth WVH self-titled release. It is fucking stellar. If you are one of those people that hate on Wolfie just because he's Eddie's kid, clean out your ears and listen to the fucking album. It's really damn good, all the way front to back. Solid record.
My number 4 is a band called Unto Others, and the album is called Strength. I fell in love with these guys when they were called Idle Hands, but they had to change their name last year. And this is their first release under this title, even though it's the same band. And it does not disappoint. I saw them open up for King Diamond last year, or 2 years ago now, and I was a fan instantly. I left and bought all their shit right after the show. And this record is a perfect gothic blend of 1980s rock with modern gothic metal. Awesome.
Unto Others is actually on my honorable mention list, and they were almost number 10. That probably shocks you, doesn't it?
It does shock me. I'm shocked to even know who they are.
I had a friend about a month ago reach out to me and asked me if I'd heard of them, and I said no, and he sent me a few tracks, and I started digging in and really enjoy it. So yeah, I was almost there. Almost.
Oh, come on. It's my number 4. It's amazing.
I chose Howard Jones over it. Yeah. All right, number 3 for me, and I'm going to totally butcher this album title, but it is, I'm just going to say The New Chevelle. I think it's Niratius. I don't know. Niratias, whatever the fuck that word is. What a stellar record. I've always loved Chevelle in a weird way in my band before we had our current singer, which he's been with us forever now. With our old singer, I thought we sounded very similar to Chevelle. They were kind of what I don't want to say we modeled after them, but that's where we thought we fit. And I've always liked those guys, but they kind of have faded off. They really have faded off a lot, to be honest. This new album totally struck me. Really, really good. A lot of groove in it.
My number 3 is one of my all-time favorite bands, released a new record this year, and that's Moonspell, and the record is called Hermitage. I fucking love this band. I see them live every time they come through Phoenix. I have their whole catalog. I buy them on CD, vinyl. Obsessed with this band from their great black metal beginnings to their gothic periods to the perfect hybrid of what they do today. This is a little bit of a mellower record, which I really enjoyed, but fantastic release.
All right, number 2 for me, and this may shock people that it's not number 1, is Doom Crew Inc. from Black Label Society. We spoke a lot about that 2 episodes ago. You know my feeling towards that one, so that's all I got to say about it. Doom Crew Inc. number 2 in 2021 for me.
My number 2, and I thought I was going to get shit for this, is Black Label Society Doom Crew Inc. This is going to be the only match we have, but it's kind of cool that we both have it at number 2. It's a great record. We went over it in detail. So great job, Zach.
All right, and number 1 for me is Mr. Dan Drago's "The Dream Is Over." Dan, I couldn't let it pass that. I couldn't let it pass that you released an album in 2021, a solo album that I know you worked your ass off on and that I know means a lot to you. And it's an excellent record. Listeners, if you haven't yet, go to your listening machine, be it Apple or Spotify, and check out Dan Drago, Drago, "The Dream Is Over." You won't be disappointed. Very, very solid stuff, Dan. Good job.
Dude, I can't believe that. That's a nice swerve. I did not know that was coming. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Welcome. My number 1 is a band called Bloody Hammers, and the record is called Songs of Unspeakable Terror. This record blew me away when it came out in January. So it's earlier in the year, but it has stuck with me the whole year. There's not been a record I've listened to front to back all the way through. And this is a perfect blend of Sabbath, a little White Zombie, a lot of Misfits. The melodies that Anders Manga writes are so memorable. This has been not only their best record, but my favorite record of the year. Absolutely amazing.
I got to be honest, man. I only knew like 2 bands on your fucking list.
That's perfect.
I didn't know many of those at all.
Yeah, so. I didn't think you would. That's awesome. And thanks again, Josh, for doing that and saying that. I can't tell you what that means to me. That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's a solid record, and I want to give it another chance for the listeners to go back out there and dive into it. For those who may be new to the show and aren't familiar with it, that you do indeed have an album that just came out this year. You know, we both, as we talked about with Rudy, we both write and record music and have bands, but there's something about a solo record that's just so personal. It'd be fun for everyone to go check it out and get their feedback on what they think about it. But otherwise, man, happy 2021 to everybody and welcome 2022. And I'm excited to see what 2022 brings to us because it should be a new Ozzy album. That's fucking badass.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 things real quick. One, the theme song that we play for the show is a song of mine called Forever that is on my solo record. So if you like the theme intro music, that's right there on my solo record. And number 2 is we both know it's going to be number 1 on our list next year.
Absolutely. All right, Dan, before we get on to Rudy, do you have anything else?
No, just Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody. Thank you all for your support. I don't want to speak for Josh, but I know I can speak for Josh when I say this has gotten bigger and badder than either of us ever suggested. From just saying, hey, let's record our podcasts, the conversations we have on a daily basis. We think it'd be awesome, to the success and the loyal listeners we have. I never dreamed of it ever being this big. So I mean, thank you.
We just got off the phone with Rudy fucking Sarzo.
Yeah, exactly.
Not only a phone, but a video conference where we could see each other and speak and make gestures at each other. I mean, fucking Rudy Sarzo. What the fuck? I mean, that's the coolest shit ever, man. And that alone makes it worth it, let alone the feedback from the listeners. You know, reach out to Rudy and let him know you appreciate him coming on our show and that you enjoyed it also. That would be great. Yeah,
definitely let Rudy know you heard his interview on our show. Great point. Yeah.
All right, guys, enjoy the rest of the show with Rudy Sarzo.
We'll see you next year.
Hello, everybody, and Dan and I are excited to welcome to the show a man who needs no introduction, bassist extraordinaire, Mr. Rudy Sarzo. How's it going, Rudy?
I'm blessed beyond words. How's it going with you guys?
Doing good, man. We definitely can't complain. How about you, Dan?
Doing great. You know, getting ready for the holidays. It's Christmas is a week away, so just getting ready for the holidays. Are you doing anything special for the holidays, Rudy?
Wow. You know, every day is Christmas in my story, so it's like no. Yeah. I mean, you know, because it's Christmas Day, and you know, there's certain expectations and celebration and traditions mostly. So yeah, you know. We're going to be doing the family stuff and enjoying it. But every day is Christmas for me. It really is. Yeah.
It's a great attitude.
For sure. Yeah. And, you know, you've lived a blessed life. You've lived the dream that we all dream about. So it's definitely something to be thankful for.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just gets better every day. So, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely have been in the news lately with your reemergence with Quiet Riot, man. So, you know, everyone's excited to see you back in the group. How did that come about?
Well, it was Frankie's request that I return to Quiet Riot. And, you know, Frankie, next year is going to be 50 years that I met Frankie 50 years ago next year on my birthday, November 18 in 1972. Wow. So we have a long history. I mean, we had a history playing together for 10 years prior, almost to the day that I went in to record the tracks that wound up on the Mental Health record, which is basically, except for 2 songs, the song Don't Wanna Let You Go and Mental Health, I play on the whole album. While I was still a member of Ozzy, within a week from each other, I recorded about half of my contribution to Mental Health. And then I left and I went to New York to record Speak of the Devil, that same time period.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing point of your life. I mean, you had so much going on. And at the time, didn't even realize what a mark you were making on music history with both of those albums.
Yep. 2 all-time classics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I listen to a lot of Mental Health record because, I've only done 2 shows this year with Quiet Riot, and they're like 1 month in between. And then I'm getting ready to do New Year's Eve in Las Vegas. And then there's going to be another 1 month in between. And then we pick it up, God willing, in February. And we go on a regular schedule of just about every weekend we go out. But of course, so I get to listen to the whole record a lot because, I play along with it just to, not just to remind me of what I play, but actually, how can I play it today, 40 years later? I'm a different musician. Music is different. Music has evolved. And then there's some certain aspects of classic rock or 80s metal that people want to hear being performed, a certain way, the way that they remember. But then there's a certain aspect that we as musicians, we owe it to ourselves first. And we owe it to our crowd, the fan base that shows up to take it to the next level that we happen to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Has there ever been any thought, you essentially are playing Mental Health in its entirety anyway, has there ever been a thought of promoting that and playing it in its entirety from track 1 through the end, or going in that order?
Yeah, this year we're going to be celebrating the recording of the album, Mental Health. But the following year in 2023, we're going out promoting the 40 years of Mental Health.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. That'll be great.
Do you think you guys will play it front to back? Because right now you are playing the whole album, but it's kind of like definitely sprinkled throughout the set. But it's an interesting thought. I guess if you're going to present it as performing it front to back, it is not sequenced properly for front to back, even though we probably wind up doing that. And we do kind of like an arrangement of like, for example, we have been doing this for over 20 years now, starting with the riff to Mental Health. That's how the set begins. And we started doing that way back, kind of like a teaser, Then we go into the first song of the set. And then at the end, we do Mental Health. It's kind of like what they call an overture, except the overture is bits and pieces of all the music in a classical performance, But I did something like that. It was a Holy Diver celebration, either 20 or 25th anniversary. It was recorded in 2005. So I think it was the 20th anniversary. But anyways, it was an anniversary. And with Dio, we did play Holy Diver from front to back. I have it.
Yeah. So we did do that. And it was interesting because before we went into it, we actually played a lot of Rainbow. We opened up with Tarot Woman from Rainbow. And then I believe we did some Black Sabbath. Maybe not. But we definitely, then after we did the last song of the record, Holy Diver, we finished it off with more material.
Yeah. Well, Metallica recently did the Black Album in its entirety. And what they did, which would be a decent idea for you guys, is they played it backwards. So you would begin with Thunderbird and then work your way back to Mental Health to end the show with Mental Health, which is another idea. Yeah. It's cool.
Well, we're not much into backward stuff.
The one thing, and I've been revisiting Mental Health a lot lately, is how deep of a record it is. Songs like Run for Cover and Breathless. I mean, it is a fantastic record outside of the huge mega hits that you guys had on it. Did you know when you were recording those tracks that like every song was just, I just can't get over how well it's composed.
That's an interesting thought because most of that record was written, with the exception of, let's say, Don't Want to Let You Go and Mental Health. Those were songs that Carlos Cavazo brought in from his band Snow. He wrote that.
Oh,
Interesting.
And as a matter of fact, Metal Health, and the song Metal Health, his brother Tony, who was also the bass player in Snow, brought that song in. I mean, he gets a Metal Health. It used to be called No More Booze.
wow.
That was it when it was
Interesting.
Snow.
No more booze.
Yeah, no more booze. And I'll give you an Ozzy story here. When Kevin and I, when I used to live with Kevin, right before I joined Ozzy, so we were really tight. I played with him in Dubrow, right? So I get the audition. I leave LA and I go on the road with Randy, in Ozzy, and we will have all these incredible experiences. It's like we were right in the middle. I mean, we were part of the new wave of British metal, even though I did not consider it because I'm not British. And I just jumped right into it. Those two records were recorded before Tommy and I joined the band. So it was like, okay, I'm jumping on this ship that's already set sail. I climb on a dinghy or a tugboat in the middle of the ocean, and I'm on this boat, right? Almost like from a life raft to join with this big cruiser named Ozzy, with all this new music and everything. And we were part of the British new wave of metal. And we have bands like Motorhead, and we have bands like Def Leppard, definitely part of it. And we opened up for Saxon in 1980. It was still 81. We opened up for Saxon. It was the Diary of a Madman release in Europe. So it was our version of the Diary of a Madman tour, but the European UK leg of that. Okay. So, we were like experiencing all this stuff. Meanwhile, in LA, nothing was happening. Because to be honest with you, it did not start happening until Metal Health hit it big.
Yeah, absolutely.
It did not happen. Still at that time, what was going on in LA is, as far as the record industry goes, they were signing and focusing on new wave and punk, right? So Kevin was struggling, trying to get, banging his head against the wall, trying to get the record companies to pay attention to what Dubrow was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So a lot of the songs, including Hit Thunderbird, that wound up on the Metal Health record, were written during that Dubrow period. Randy leaves in 1979, so you got 80, 81. Mm-hmm. And then Metal Health gets recorded in 82. So there was a lot of time and material that Kevin wrote during that period, and I actually got to play those songs with him when I was also playing with him and living with him in his apartment, and I played with him in Dubrow. So a lot of that music was written then, right? I mean, whether it was that we knew it was going to be amazing or not, it was just, it was music, and it was good and it was fun to play. That's all I knew. Come and Feel the Noise. It was a song that the band that I wanted to record.
Right.
The Spencer Proffer, basically the reason why there was a deal on the table is because we recorded that song. If that didn't happen, I really doubted that Spencer would have signed the band.
Wow.
Yeah. And so Metal Health, the song Metal Health and Don't Want to Let You Go were recorded before I even went in to do my Thunderbird track, which originally, that's what Kevin called me up and say, hey, you want to come in and do this as a tribute to Randy? And of course, I used to play with that song with him in Dubrow.
Right.
That was my bass line. I recorded the bass line that I used to play with him, And so there was time in the session because, I knew the song, so it went by really fast. I'm playing with Frankie, Kevin, and Carlos, of course. But, when I say Frankie and Kevin, I already knew them. I knew how to play with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It felt like this is Quiet Riot, but Randy was not there anymore. And when I say Frankie, is because I have been playing with Frankie for 10 years. and every time, Frankie was the first real rhythm section drummer partner that I had. He's the one who mentored me on how to be a play, rhythm section.
The rhythm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just think drums and bass, rhythm section.
Yeah.
And of course, the guitar player, usually a good guitar player will consider themselves part of that too. And it came very, very easy, very comfortable. It's the guys that I have been playing with prior to joining Ozzy. So they asked me, okay, we recorded Thunderbird. Do you remember Slick Black Cadillac, which is the only song that made it from the Randy Rhoads era to Metal Health, and Kevin wrote that. I said, there. from Randy to write a good song. So he came up with
I've never heard the dare part. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And he hit it out of the ballpark with that one. And then there were songs that I already knew from Dubrow. I believe, Let's Get Crazy, Love's a Bitch, songs like that. Okay, so going back to Mental Health, Chuck Wright played bass on that before I even went into the just one song, Tribute, and wound up doing more songs. Okay, so the origin of Mental Health from going from No More Booze was Randy and I, every time we used to return to Los Angeles from tour with Ozzy, we get picked up, a car would pick us up at the airport, and we would request to be taken over to Kevin's place and just hang out with him and give him an update of what we were up to. Remember, there's no social media, there's no cell phones, nothing, no texting, no emails. This is if you're going to call somebody from the UK to give him a 10-minute update, it's going to cost you about $100.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like, no, we're not doing that. We'll let him know. We'll brief him in what's going on when we get to LA, and we'll go to the Rainbow and hang out, right? So Randy and I, we're telling him, Kevin, about, wow, you're not going to believe this, man. We're playing in these places in the UK, and there's these fans, man. They're nuts. They're banging their heads against the stage while we're playing. We had never seen anything like that. So we were like telling him this. So his wheels are turning, and he took the song "No More Booze" and turned it into "Bang Your Head."
Wow,
So Bang Your Head.
Cool.
So that refrain was "No More Booze." That's amazing to me.
That sounds really good, actually. I actually sounds better than "Bang Your Head." I think we should
work that out.
go back to the original.
Wow, what a cool story.
It is awesome.
And I know a lot about. I consider that I know a lot about the history of Quiet Riot, and there was so much in that story that I didn't know. I didn't know "No More Booze." I had never heard that, and I didn't realize you had helped work on those songs in Dubrow before you left to join Ozzy. I had no idea of that. That's really neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All the songs that are actually Dubrow songs of my period, because again, I left in 1981 April, and shortly after Chuck came in. And then I came back into the band in 1982. So there was that 1-year period.
Yeah.
But the material that I did play with Kevin in Dubrow while I was there, those are the songs.
Wow. And Love's a Bitch. It was originally way more up tempo, wasn't it? It was kind of a faster song than
No. And I'm gonna say something that I don't think I ever mentioned in a podcast. Okay, Kevin and I were living together, and Kevin has this. That riff, right? The chorus. And, this is typical. He used to do this all the time. He would be working on a song, and I was watching TV in his apartment, and I was really in a bad place romantically.
Happens.
It happens. I mean, it was 40 years ago. Okay. I've been married for 37, so, it's... Things are much better now. But at the time, I was broke. Nobody wants to go out with a broke guy, who's playing on the weekends, maybe. So, he goes, what do you think? And he says, actually, he asked me, one of the very few times he ever asked me if I have an idea for a chorus. And I just said, "Love's a Bitch."
Wow.
That was it. And he goes, "Love's a Bitch." Yeah, but actually he asked me, what do you mean loves a bitch? And I go, just go, "Loves a bitch, baby, loves a bitch." And that was it. So he took it from there. And then I think the verse is amazing.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with the verse. I saw the chorus.
Yeah.
That's such a cool story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really got to witness a lot of the evolution of Kevin Dubrow. I mean, joining Quiet Riot in 77 and then all the way through to Mental Health and even beyond, Condition Critical.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I rarely get to talk about this because people don't bring it up. But I play with 3 different Kevins. I play with Kevin, the ringmaster of Quiet Riot, whose showcase was Randy Rhoads. He was there just to put the slide on Randy, as it should be. Of course, because I saw them before I joined the band. And of course, my eyes went over to this guitar player. That was amazing. So yeah, but he had really no ambition of putting the spotlight on himself. It was all about celebrating Randy on stage, right? And then Randy leaves, and it's all by himself now. It's like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna, I lost my writing partner, I lost my, my guitar player, I'm just going to like work on myself and become the best Kevin I can be. That's the Dubrow Kevin, which segue into the Mental Health record Kevin. And then once the band made it big, that changed them too.
Wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
And, it says a lot, revisionist history, but a lot of people in the 80s tried to say Kevin was hard to work with or this or that. You always heard things like that. But like you said, even at such a young age, to be willing to showcase someone else in the group when you are the front man and to showcase the guitar player, that really says a lot about character and ego.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's well documented. We had a tempestuous relationship. Hard to really pinpoint the origin of it. I know people nobody has ever come up to me and said, this is what happened,
Yeah.
But I don't dwell on that. I mean, if you put that, let's say a balance, one of those balances, if you weigh the conflict versus all the great stuff that we did together and our good relationship, it outweighs any of the conflict, And I just rather hang on to that than anything else. When you ask me about my return to Quiet Riot, it's at the core of it, at the very, very core. Without this, I would not be doing it. It is to celebrate the memory of Frankie, Kevin, and Randy.
Yeah.
Without the celebration, it's like a body without a soul.
Right.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I agree. Totally.
So, Rudy, after Mental Health has that major success and you guys have to follow it up with Condition Critical, what was that like composing that record? Was any of that left over from the Dubrow days?
Yeah.
How did that whole process? And was that really overwhelming, really, to have to follow up Mental Health?
Well, in many ways, mostly because we were in the middle of a tour. We were headlining for Mental Health. We started out in '83, right after the record came out in March, doing some dates, opening up for different bands. We even opened up for Vandenberg, our first time outside of California, actually in California, but outside of the LA, Southern California area. And then right after that, we opened up for Scorpions, which led us to the US Festival. And then after that, we started opening up for ZZ Top, Loverboy. Loverboy did not pick up the second leg option of the tour. But by then, we were gaining momentum. And so the promoter started to offer giving us headlining. And I mean, to headline on one record is very tough because you only got 40 minutes for a 75-minute set.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
And playing Highway to Hell, it's not an option.
Right.
You gotta come up with your own
You gotta come up with your own stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. And but we did it. And then after that, we picked up the Iron Maiden tour, and Black Sabbath brought us up to November when we went to number one.
Right.
And then we kept opening up. We went to the UK and Europe with Judas Priest. And then New Year's Eve, Cobo Hall, New Year's Eve of 83 to 84, we opened up our headlining tour and with Night Ranger and Girls School on the bill. And we kept touring up until the record company literally came on the road, had a meeting with us and says, we got to take you guys on in the studio next week because we need an album to come out on the third quarter of the year. And I mean, we only got like 6 weeks to do the whole thing. And and at that time we were just adjusting to becoming a headliner. That's what we're working on, being a headliner, not working on producing the follow-up record. So we had to get off the road, start rehearsing, no break, because usually you finish that tour, you have a breather, recharge your batteries and go in the studio to start writing the record. And then you go to record the record. You bring a producer and during your songwriting session and to start working on arrangements and, and ideas and so on. But we didn't have that. We were just like, boom, bypass everything, go back in the studio.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you guys pulled it off though. Condition Criticals is fabulous record. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. I like everything on it. But it was not the next step. It was kind of like a Mental Health 2, Part 2.
Right.
And we would have loved to have taken it to the next step, really. You know?
Yeah. Can I ask you a question about the album before we move on, Dan, if you don't care?
Yeah.
Winners Take All. You know, that song, you all also did that with Randy Rhoads in the band with different lyrics. And the title was, sometimes you see it called Time, sometimes it's different things.
Yeah.
Was that a song written by Kevin Dubrow? Because I know, like, Randy didn't get a songwriting credit on that one, but it was one that was definitely played, not recorded, but played in his era. You recall that?
Yeah. There was some politics going on behind that I'm not going to get into.
Okay.
That kept Randy's name from being on the songwriting credit. You know, that's as much as I'm going to say. But originally, it's the core of the song. Originally is Teenage Anthem.
Teenage Anthem. Yep.
Yeah, from the Quiet Riot days. Yeah.
And of course, the bootlegs are online of that. That song is the highlight of the set for me. I've always loved that one on the bootlegs on YouTube and stuff. You love that song. So has a little tidbit of Goodbye to Romance at the end of it also when Randy played that with you all back in '78. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Mean, most of the Blizzard of Oz record was very, with the exceptions, of course, of Mr. Crowley, the darker tones of that record. But Goodbye to Romance, even D, what Randy recorded in D, I mean, he used to play bits of that during his guitar solo with Quiet Riot.
Right.
I'm not saying the whole piece, but, motifs of that. If you listen to Crazy Train, if you listen to the verse, that's pretty much a Quiet Riot song. No Bone Movies.
I was just going to say that one. No Bone Movies for sure.
No Bone Movies. Yeah.
You Looking at Me, Looking at You is another big Quiet Riot song style.
It was the guitar solo was from Heartache.
Yeah, because hey, listen, do you guys play in bands?
We do.
We both do, actually. Yeah.
Okay. So you guys have had a journey. I'm sure you're not playing in the first band you ever played in, right?
No.
Okay. So what you do is you start with one band and you write some songs. They don't go anywhere with that band, and then you get in another band and you go and everybody goes, so what do you got? I said, well, I got these ideas or these riffs, that you actually were playing in the other band, but they were never used. And then they get reworked and it's something else.
I would do it in a heartbeat, Rudy. I totally agree.
Yeah, that's what everybody does. I mean, why throw away good parts just because they did not get recorded or
reach its potential?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've done records like that. I did a record called Manic Eden with Adrian Vandenberg and Tommy, and we had a singer, but that singer made those songs sound too much like Whitesnake, the band that we were just come from. And then when Ron Young came in, from Little Caesar, he came in and completely changed. And it wasn't like we rearranged the music. No, right. It was exactly what was recorded. This time, this is in 1993. So it wasn't like we were recording on Pro Tools. We were still recording in 2-inch, real, analog. Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so nothing got rearranged as far as Ron Young coming in and say, oh man, I wish I had 4 more bars at the end of this verse so I can put this vocal line. Yes. No, he had to fit everything he did to what was already written.
Yeah. That's great. So back to playing with Ozzy, if you don't mind, if we kind of explore that a little bit.
It is called a diary.
It is.
Man. So
absolutely.
It's no surprise to me.
No question. So you got to play, as you talked about, you came into the project a little late, and Bob and Lee had already done the record. How different were learning Bob's bass lines versus learning Geezer's bass lines, having to cram that in for 5 days? They're both such incredible bass players like yourself. What was the differences between learning all those songs?
Okay. And this is something that you guys being musicians, you probably understand when I explain this. When I started playing with Frankie Banali, concepts of being a rhythm section player was to listen to the drums. The drums, to me, this is something I've kept ever since 1972. He's the conductor of the band.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
The conductor, right? So when you got somebody like Tommy Aldridge, who Tommy Aldridge plays like Tommy Aldridge, no matter what band he's in, And so I had to make a few adaptations just to be able to be part of the rhythm section. I can't play this exactly like this on the record because it's a whole different conductor, it's a whole different drummer.
Right.
You know. Now, Geezer versus Bob, as far as their approach to what they write, bass lines, Geezer is more pentatonic, blues bass with some tinge of jazz thrown in. And I think the jazz is more feel than choice of notes.
Right.
Okay. Where you have Bob Daisley is more of a McCartney melodic bass player.
Yeah. Brilliant bass line.
Yeah. More whole tones, he'll do some pentatonics and major pentatonic. Like, for example, Goodbye to Romance is full of that. But he's more kind of like a McCartney melodic driving bass player. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you happen to have songs that you enjoyed learning more than others? I know, just out of curiosity, is there songs you like? Is there one song you're like, yes, that's definitely the song from that era that I loved?
Yeah, I know a lot of people might not even know this. My teacher learning those songs, the bass lines, was Randy.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, because we needed to go on tour. I joined the band, and the opening day was like 9 days away. It was like, you better learn these songs quick. So I'm going to sit down with you. And remember, the record had just come out. I didn't have a copy of it.
Right.
Every time I heard a song, it was brand new to me. It's not like 40 years later that everybody knows,
Yeah, and everyone knows them, but
yeah. Everybody has heard Crazy Train before they even learn how to play that Crazy Train. I heard all those songs for the very first time. And Blizzard of Oz, Diary of a Madman record, the same. Diary wasn't even released yet.
Right.
When
November
I had to
of '81. Yeah.
Yeah, or it wasn't even mixed yet when I heard the two songs that I had to learn to add to the set, which was Believer and
Flying High Again.
Flying High Again. Thank you. Yeah. Over the Mountain was added for the next tour.
Right.
So it was like, okay, and you got to retain this. You're not going to be standing on stage with a guitar, music stand, with chords. You have to internalize it. Not only you have to learn it, you got to learn how to play it with the band,
and perform. You got to perform. Yeah.
So Randy sat down with me and went over all the parts, make sure that I had all the nooks and crannies of everything. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I having already played with Randy before in Quiet Riot, he's a complete composer, meaning that when he would bring in a song, he had an idea of how everything should go to match the vision in his head. And I don't know what happened, but Ozzy's music changed after Randy passed.
Sure.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Everything. Everything from how the rhythm section played, the harmonic structure of the compositions, bass lines change, everything changed. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you stated it perfectly. I actually have said that before. Randy didn't write songs; he composed them. I've actually made that statement before myself. No question.
Yeah.
When you're playing with Dubrow, and then all of a sudden Ozzy needs a bass player, and they reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
How did you? Did Randy call you and say, "Hey, Rudes, you got to come check this out," or how did that work out?
No, what I coined now as an alcoholic decision. I've been sober for 24 years. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
But it's not like I got the call when I was drunk or anything. I just happened, if you happen to be an alcoholic, even if you're sober, you have an alcoholic mind, and which I've learned, and I don't do that anymore. But that moment in 1981. When I got the phone call, I was sleeping in Kevin DeBro's apartment, and I got this phone call, and this lady on the other line happened to be Sharon, introduces herself and tells me that Randy has been recommending me to audition for Ozzy, and I immediately, like I didn't even let her finish. I turned it down because I was playing in a band called Angel. Now, I like Angel. I love playing with those guys. It's a band that I really respected and admired. But I was sleeping on a floor. They didn't have a record deal at the time. They had just lost the Casablanca deal. There were some potential record deals on the table, but again, potential doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So I turn it down, and then I tell Kevin about it, and he starts yelling at me, putting some sense into what I had the mistake that I had made. And I had no idea that the next day I was going to get a call from Ozzy himself, calling me saying, "Hey, man, a bunch of guys came in an audition, and Randy keeps telling me that you're the guy." And by then I was like, "Yes, I'm there."
That's awesome.
I'm there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so Randy picks me up. And then again, to get a call today, 40 years later, from Ozzy, it's a different phone call to get a call from him in 1981.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. No, I mean, put things into perspective. What does it mean? Who is this guy? Is he going to make it?
Right.
It's like, it's Ozzy, right? Ozzy in 1981, And
Walked out of Black Sabbath, right. I
hadn't even heard the whole record. It was like, all I know is that Randy's in the band and I'm going to get off the floor.
Yeah.
If I get this gig, I might sleep in a bed, and feed myself. That's all I knew. And of course, like I just mentioned, play with Randy again.
Right.
I did not know until I walked in and learn the songs. And I go, wow, these songs are awesome.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah.
So I learned 2 songs for the audition the following day. Crazy Train and I Don't Know. And I played them. I got there to rehearsal a little bit early. Randy picked me up. Actually, he came over, taught me the songs, how they go. This is how they go. I never heard them. He brought the tape here.
Yeah.
This is how it goes. So I had to memorize it really quickly. And then I went over a couple of times with Tommy and Randy, and then Sharon Ozzy walked in and they heard me play one time by myself. And then the next time Ozzy got up on stage, I guess just to get a vibe, and then that was it. I was offered the gig. Ozzy turns around to me and says, "Hey man, you want the gig?" That was it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Rudy, those are the kind of stories we enjoy on this podcast. We thrive on not talking about the same old stories over and over and kind of digging deeper into what. So we really enjoy stuff like that. So Tommy was already established and with the group rehearsing already.
Yeah. Tommy was in the band. Tommy did not audition. I don't think he has auditioned since the 70s or the 60s. Yeah. Or the 60s when he first got the Black Oak, Arkansas.
Right.
Yeah, back in the 60s. I don't think he's ever auditioned after that.
Yeah, but I think Ozzy and Randy were both big fans of his.
Yeah,
already,
they were.
So they knew
Black
him.
Oak and Black Sabbath toured together.
Yeah.
So they knew each other. And Tommy had been playing with some of the Jet Record Don Arden acts prior to him joining Ozzy, one of them being Gary Moore.
Right.
Nuclear Attack. He played on that record. And so, they were really familiar with him. And by me, I was like, who's this guy? Oh, he's Randy's old bass player. Oh, okay.
But it's clear that Randy wanted you in the group. I mean, he reached out to you and worked with you on the song. So it's cool that he definitely wanted you to join the group.
I think what Randy was looking for was exactly what I lost when I lost him in the crash, was family. When I joined the band, we just hung out together a lot because family from the word familiarity from Quiet Riot, so I'm familiar with him, family. And then when I lost Randy in the crash, I lost my family in Ozzy because Randy wasn't there anymore. So I walk in to record just one song, Thunderbird, and I found my family again. Here's Frankie, who I've been playing with him on and off for 10 years. And here's Kevin, who I just played with him in Quiet Riot and Dubrow. It was like, oh, okay, here's the family. That's why, to me, it was basically a no-brainer to join what officially became Quiet Riot once we all signed the record deal. And leave one of the biggest bands in the world. And I was really beautifully taken care of by Sharon and Ozzy. It was not an easy decision for me to make, but I had lost the joy of playing music. Because I wasn't, I lost my family, when I lost Randy. And I found that again when I went in to record, tribute. I mean, Thunderbird as a tribute to Randy,
right.
Yeah. And trust me, the only person that did not question leaving Ozzy was my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time. We met in 1981, so she was with me during the whole thing, and she never said a peep about, "Are you crazy?
Yeah,
It's great
You're leaving
support.
Ozzy? What's wrong
Right.
with you?" You just,
Yeah.
she's never gotten into my business,
How
Because,
did
but then again, it's her business too, because she's my wife.
yeah, of course.
partner. Yeah.
How did Ozzy take the news when you let him know that you were going back to Quiet Riot?
Well, I let Sharon know, and it was just a phone call, and she basically she did not let me finish, and she goes, "Nobody leaves Ozzy," and that was it. She hung up, and that was it.
Mm.
It wasn't easy. I mean, listen, it was so hard to do that. It's so hard, but I had no choice.
Right.
Well, as a musician, and I'm sure Dan can understand this also, I understand the feeling of familiarity that you speak of. I mean, you get with the old guys, and it just feels right, and I can totally see how you made that decision, especially after finishing that tour had to be so hard.
Yeah.
And
it was,
yeah. So, to back up real quick, I have a quick question. You said that when you guys did your first headline shows as Quiet Riot, Night Ranger opened. Was your connection with Brad Gillis anything to do with that, or how did
peripherally it might have not. When you ask a band to join to come on your tour, it's pretty much up to the band to accept the invitation.
Yeah.
It's not like we say, "Okay, we are making you tour with us." It has to be a good decision for everybody involved. So I'm glad that Bradley, came and joined us, and it was great having. I know all those guys, and we were friends even before that happened. I'll tell you a little story. When we finished recording "Speak of the Devil," we were on the same flight back to Los Angeles, Brad and me. And of course, I have done like at least 4 songs from that wound up on the Mental Health record, because, like I mentioned, I went to record Thunderbird as a tribute to Randy before I went over to record "Speak of the Devil" within the same a week to 10 days, or probably even less than that. So I had a cassette of the songs that I tracked, and so on the flight back, this is 40 years ago. So back in the day, you could actually, on a red eye, there was nobody on the plane. So we were like, we took a whole row all to ourselves, and we were just like, nodding out and sleeping and resting. And he goes to me, "Hey, you want to hear something that I'm working on?" And it was the Night Ranger record. And I go, "Well, let me play you something that I just been working on." By this time, I had not mentioned to anybody that I was leaving. It was not. I knew in my heart that as soon as I got to LA and I got my business taken care of regarding what my Speak of the Devil contractual obligations, that I could go and announce to Sharon. We were, the first people to know that I was leaving, besides the guys in Quiet Riot, that I was going to leave to join the mental health version of Quiet Riot. Nobody knew anything about it. I didn't even till when I played those songs to Brad. It wasn't like, "Yeah, I'm leaving Ozzy and this is the record that I'm working on." No, it was like, this is like a side thing, sort of.
Right.
Because Brad wasn't really like, "Yeah, I'm leaving Ozzy," because he didn't. He kept touring with Ozzy. He did the Speak of the Devil tour. As a matter of fact, Pete Way is the bass player on that.
Right.
Yeah, so he did not officially leave Ozzy until the following year, because this is 82. So in 83 is when he officially leaves Ozzy.
And brings in Jake, right? So to backtrack just a little bit, when you guys were transferring from the Blizzard tour to the Diary tour, was there more songs from Diary that was worked up at the time for the set list? Because I mean, I know that only Flying High Again and Believer were already in the set list, but only Over the Mountain was added. So out of curiosity, I mean, was songs like SATO or You Can't Kill Rock and Roll and any other songs worked up to try to get into the set?
Okay. And I wrote about it in my book. It's in the book.
Yep.
And
it's a great book, off the rails for the listeners.
It is a great book.
Yeah, I wrote the book kind of like a journal, because I wanted to take the reader by the hand, and it's like, this is what happened. from my perception, from what I saw what I experienced. This is what happened. Okay, so we were on tour in Dortmund, Germany, opening up for Saxon, and Ozzy has a mental breakdown. I mean, he goes bonkers. I've never seen anybody go so bonkers and not get arrested.
Wow.
Wow.
At a hotel, he went bonkers. I wrote about it, and it's in the book. So they take him to St. John's Wood's Mental Institution in the UK, and he's in there. As a matter of fact, there's a part in the book that Randy and I were hanging in a bar, and Sharon comes in and grabs us and takes us over to see Ozzy. And it was like a scene out of Elephant Man. Those hospitals in England were just drab and dreary. This is 40 years ago, Everything is gray. And Ozzy's just there in this room all by himself with like really low light and gray metal headboard and everything was metal, like the old iron cast metal beds and
wow.
And these, it was a very Spartan. There was not a whole lot of stuff in that room. And I don't know what medication they were giving him, but he would cry and he would laugh just from one moment to the other. And it was like, wow, and we're rehearsing. It was Tommy, Randy, Don Airy had just joined the band, and we're rehearsing and we're learning every single song from the record because we don't know what song Ozzy wants to sing. And there were cue cards with the lyrics to the songs. And we were rehearsing in this production facility, like a sound stage for, we were in, it's a movie studios where they used to film James Bond. Twickenham or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. One of those. As a matter of fact, I remember in the hotel we were staying at, I saw Sean Connery in the lobby one time.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
Okay. But I don't know what movie he was making, but, it was in that facility. Because what they were doing is they were building the castle, the staging. It was built in England. It was built in England, and then it was shipped over to the U.S. So at the time, it was only the framework, the frame of what, without the facade, but it looked like the shapes, of the castle. That was behind us, so to give us an idea of how massive it was going to be.
How big it would be.
Yeah, and we were bored. We're in England, and we got nothing to do but to play, right? So let's play. Let's learn the whole record. So we did. We learned every single song, and then Ozzy gets released from the hospital, and he comes in. And I don't know if he was taking medication or whatever. He just walks, as we're playing, he walks right in, plops himself in a sofa, and goes to sleep as we're playing. And then we had a little meeting, and Sharon's basically talking him into say, Ozzy, we can't go back to the States and play exactly the same set that we just did a few months ago. Because literally it was going to be a matter of months.
Right.
We finished our tour in September, and we started December 30th at Cow Palace in San Francisco. Yeah. And then New Year's Eve, the following day, was the Long Beach Arena. The Sports Arena in downtown LA, the Sports Arena. Yeah. And then the next day was 1982. Right. January 1st. Okay. So it was like, we can't go back and do exactly the same. So he settled on doing Over the Mountain, and he said, I got to do a first song because I don't think I'm going to be able to sing it in the set. So he's got to open up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was it. We added Goodbye to Romance.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But as far as songs from Diary, no. I mean, we rehearsed everything. We learned Diary of a Madman, SATO.
That would have been amazing.
You name it.
Yeah.
We learned the whole record.
It sure would be great if you had recordings of those, but unfortunately.
Yeah, right.
We'd love to hear Randy playing on those with you guys and hear you and Tommy.
But without Ozzy,
right.
It doesn't make much sense,
Nah, we'd still love it. It'd be awesome.
So that brings us to back to Speak of the Devil, and you guys have 5 days to learn all of those songs. Yeah. Was the band involved in the set list at all, saying, "Hey, let's work up these songs, Ozzy," or was that just pretty much. How was that song selection?
Well, we were just given a list.
Okay.
And 3 of the songs we had already. Okay, here was the plan. Iron Man, Children of the Grave, and Paranoid, since they were included from the first day that I played with them.
Right.
In the Blizzard of Oz set and also in the Diary of the Madman set list, right? Sharon said, you know what, we're going to use one of Randy's recordings with those songs and put them in the record.
Wow.
Which, of course, things got scrapped
thank God.
along the way. You know.
Yeah, thank God.
So we didn't even rehearse those because we have been playing those, right?
Right.
So the rest of the set was pretty much songs that, I got to tell you, I grew up as a starving musician with no Spotify, so I could not listen to songs on demand for free, you know.
Yeah.
So my choices of like, if every month I could afford to buy one LP, would be basically Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, The Who, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, you know, the Beatles, not even the Stones, but yeah, the Stones, Sticky Fingers. I definitely bought that one.
Great record. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. Because, you know, we could play those songs in bars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You could not go to a bar and play Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Nobody would dance to that. Crack was not popular then. You know.
So personally, Speak of the Devil is my favorite live album of all time, Rudy. I think the band is on fire. You guys are amazing on it. And I just think it was a great blend of taking those Sabbath songs and making it more of a modern Ozzy solo sound. And you really, really nailed it.
Yeah, I have been playing with Tommy up until then for over a year and a half, well, you know, and I knew what to expect from Tommy. But what Brad brought out, I mean, I don't know, maybe he took a little bit more liberties and felt less pressure of the shadow of Randy when he approached the Black Sabbath songs.
Yeah. Excellent point. Yeah.
You know, so he was, I think when we did, he was told, listen, just when he joined Ozzy, he says, here's the songs. And I know because I was there when he was told, you know, to be as accurate as possible to Randy's playing. So he was kind of like, he was always he would not take any risks.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Once it came to the Black Sabbath material, I think it was more like purging that, kind of like being boxed into like, you got to play it this way. I don't think anybody told him that he had to play it like Tony Iommi.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes total sense.
And he made it his own, basically. Of course, following the blueprint,
Sure.
the musical blueprint that is laid out, you know.
Yeah, he knocked it out of the park. He done a stellar job.
Yeah,
that
he
album
really
is
He did.
our last episode. We ranked all of Ozzy's live albums in order from our least favorites to favorites. And my favorite is Tribute, and Dan's is Speak of the Devil.
Yeah,
you play on all the top 3 for
That's
both
right.
of us because you were on Tribute, you were on Speak of the Devil, and Ozzy Live. They released in 2011 in the box set,
Which is the Montreal show that you were on. Yeah.
Oh, that's Ozzy
the
Live?
King Biscuit. Yeah,
I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah, that was
anymore.
that's the King Biscuit Flower Hour show essentially.
That's
Let me tell you a little story.
We love stories.
Okay.
Let's
This
go.
is why we're here.
Okay, and this is what happened. And I can tell you because I was there. Okay, so we did, Bathead Soup was the first live show that got broadcast. That's from Cleveland, 1981. Okay, then they decided, let's make another one. And this was recorded in Montreal, which was the last show of the Canadian tour. And we left, the Ozzy band left to do the Port Vale show with Motorhead.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the reason why we did that show?
No.
Black Sabbath canceled. Is that correct?
Exactly.
Good
Black
job.
Sabbath cancels. We were a last minute addition because there's no Black Sabbath. So let me personally ask Ozzy to come in, basically to save the day, right? Okay. So I don't know if it was the logistics of like Ozzy knowing, like, because Ozzy was coming home for the first time in almost a year, months to see his family. And I know that there was an emotional conflict going on because his wife had been on the road with us Thelma through the Canadian tour, right? And
Yeah.
Sharon was playing head games with her boyfriend, Ozzy,
Mhm.
right? So you got
Yeah.
all this stuff going on, behind the scenes. This is going on behind. Nobody knows. This is stuff that really doesn't matter once you hit the stage and the audience is there to watch you perform. This should go away, but a lot of times it doesn't go away. It gets internalized into your performance because you gotta be yourself. So
Yeah.
all this stuff is going on. It's gonna somehow come out in your performance, right?
Sweat out. Yeah.
Yeah. So that show, okay, I did not travel with the band after Montreal. I went with our tour manager. I traveled to LA to the embassy, the U.S. embassy, to get a re-entry permit. Re-entry. So I had a green card, which meant that I could enter the United States again. I could come home. But there was no passports to attach visas to, right? So I was coming from Canada, went into the United States. Back in the day, you could enter and leave Canada with your driver's license.
Wow.
That's all you needed. That's your only identification that you needed back in 1981, right? So that was like a no-brainer, me coming back into the U.S. And so I arrived a day later, the day right before the show, right? So I remember I get to the hotel and Randy's telling me, "Oh, Ozzy's having a wobbler. He doesn't like the recording." And he's playing. Then I go to Ozzy's room and he's playing me the cassette, and I'm listening to it, and I go, "Hey, I don't hear anything wrong with it." And he's like freaking out because I did not agree with him. But it's like, I don't know. And then he's like pissed off because I was not on his side, Okay. So anyways, that gets shelved.
Right.
So they reschedule a re-recording of that. And remember, the purpose of these recordings were just purely to be broadcast. It's a radio broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
The thought of turning that into a record wasn't even, that did not exist in our galaxy. That was just like, okay, this is a radio broadcast. So they reschedule one for us to record it in the, I think it's Market Square Theater in Indianapolis, across from Market Square Arena. This is the theater, very small, it's a theater.
Better sound, probably. Yeah.
Well, this is like weeks later after Port Vale, because once we went to Port Vale, Ozzy did not want to come back to the United States. He wanted to like be at home in England. He wanted to quit the tour. There was a lot of tension going on.
Wanted to work it out. Yeah.
I wrote it in my book. Yeah. It's all in there, all the stuff going on. So that's the show that aired. Meanwhile, the Montreal show was shelved. If you read the back of Tribute, it credits that is what you're buying. That's what you're listening to. Montreal.
Yeah.
It's not.
But it's not as Cleveland.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but then again, I'm not even in the band when this is released.
Right? It's 87.
87. Yeah. I'm not even in the band. It has nothing to do with me. And even if I was in the band, nobody would come to me and say, "Rudy, what do you think? Should we do this?" No. That photo that's in the inner sleeve of Diary of a Madman, what I was told is like, listen, we need some photos for the next tour book. Yeah, the tour book, Ross Halfin came over. We did a photo session. We're going to go to Disneyland. Trust me, if you're shooting for Diary of a Madman album art with Ozzy dressed up like whatever, with the fangs and the blood and everything, the last thing you want to do is go to Disneyland.
Picture. It's a good point.
So do a photo session.
Yeah.
You don't do that. Photo session with like sailors and all these people, and Randy has a lollipop sitting in a bench. No, that was supposed to be for the tour book. And then we're in England and in the UK. Getting I'm at the office and they show me the album work, the record, and then the inner sleeve, and I pull it out and it's like, oh my God, it's us.
Wow.
It's like, I'm not playing on this record. Why is Tommy's not playing on the record? I'm not playing on the record. Why are we in here? And then it's some kind of druid words
writing
that is like, it says the Ozzy Osbourne band in Druid, and it's like, okay. And I turned to it was either Randy or Tommy, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna have to, the rest of my life I'm gonna have to explain this.
Right.
Unfortunately, on this record. I wrote about it in my book. I don't make it a secret. It is what it is. But I have no control of that.
It's such a tough spot to be in, though, when you have a band, and even though it was considered a solo project at the time, it's still a group. And, you're touring with this group, and these are the guys in the band. The album comes out, and you have different guys that play. It is definitely a conundrum of what to do as far as how do you showcase that art. I mean, it's definitely, even at my level, that's a question. If we had a bass player leave the group, I probably wouldn't put his face on our new album either if he's not in the group anymore. So it's I can see both sides of it, but unfortunately for you, it puts you in a spot of having to explain it when you had nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody, let's say on Twitter, says, "Oh, I like what you played on the Diary of a Madman record," and say, "Oh yeah, that would be Bob Daisley,"
right?
And I put his at Bob Daisley, whatever, So
absolutely, two legends. So yeah.
So was Randy writing anything while you guys were on tour? I mean, was there any talk of a follow up to Diary?
And he was He was concentrating on his classical lessons, classical guitar. And in addition to that, before he passed away, he gave notice to Ozzy and Sharon that he was going to leave the band and go back in the studio. Making another record was not part of his vision of the future of Randy Rhoads. Randy was a teacher. He was a musician. He became a rock star. He became a legend just because it's Randy. Yeah, what you see on stage is the same guy off stage, Actually, what you saw on stage with Ozzy, if you compare early photos of Quiet Riot, he's got the same passion. We will be playing for like 5-6 people in some remote, club on the outskirts of LA on a Wednesday night. And Randy will go on stage and deliver the same passion as he would in front of 10,000 people with Ozzy. Yeah. Because that's all he knows how to do.
Yeah, true artist.
And that's after playing 8 hours that day, giving lessons also. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, just love to play.
Given the lessons, that's the only place he could really be himself is playing the music that he composed. So whether it was with Quiet Riot or it was with Ozzy, he could be Randy. When he's giving lessons, he's not giving lessons on music that had not been written yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like his being the real. He loved teaching. Oh my God, he loved teaching. As a matter of fact, if you look at any photo of Randy, the clarity, the way he faces the guitar to the audience. I mean, sometimes I could look at it and say, "Oh, he's playing a certain song because of his, whatever chord he happens to be playing."
Did you enjoy teaching also? I know you taught at Musonia for a short stint.
Well, it's not that I enjoy teaching as much as I enjoy hanging with Randy, because it was the, we all had separate lives when we were living in LA. He was busy teaching, and we would like get together for rehearsal about 2 hours and every night, and then rehearse the set list forwards and backwards, like Metallica. I think they took that idea from us.
That's where they got it from.
Yeah. And then whatever demos, songs that were floating around to make demos of, we will work on those. And then everybody goes home, and we do it again the next day. And then on the weekends, probably at least 2 weekends out of the month, we had gigs around town. And that was it. That was pretty much our schedule. So there was not a whole lot of socializing. The socializing was done at the gigs. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when I started teaching, I could socialize with him because, in between breaks and in between lessons, I could, hang out with him and listen to stuff that he would never play at the rehearsal because it was not applicable. Like his classical guitar playing. I mean, it's different if he's playing classical on the electric, let's say Teenage Anthem. He would play in a way that it was more finger picking than actual real classical, the way that he would play classical music. But when he would, take out his classical guitar and start playing those songs, classical compositions that he was studying, I would go, "Oh, wow, okay, it's a whole different attack." Because Randy electric, palm muting, lot of palm muting, very light, very loud amplifier that we play very lightly with a lot with definition, articulation, a lot of palm muting. That's how he developed that rhythm guitar style, right? And then when he started playing classical, whenever you see his thumbnail grow, that's when he was getting into that classical phase of Randy, playing like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's a whole different articulation. Yeah.
Yeah. To this day, I'll hold my guitar picking hand outward like that sometimes, just like Randy did on After Hours, because it's something I picked up on watching him on those videos, how he kind of held his hand the way he palm muted.
Yeah, he would anchor with his pinky. Yeah. Anchor with the pinky on the bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Rudy, before we let you go, do you care to speak to us a little bit about After Hours? Any thoughts you had, when you guys recorded that? Or obviously you had no idea that 40 years later, that would be the only professional recording of you, Randy and Ozzy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only 3-camera shoot that we did. And people say, how come you guys did not do one with Randy? Yes, we did, but Randy had passed away. Before that, that's the one also called Speak of the Devil from Irvine.
Right.
Yeah.
Great show. Yeah.
We love that show. Yeah, it's an excellent show.
And with Brad. But that was it's like, guys, to do a production like that, you take months building up to it. So Randy passed away in March 19th, and we did that like June 2022.
Yeah, it was definitely June. Yeah,
because that was the last show we did in continental U.S. and then we went over to Hawaii, and Ozzy and Sharon got married July 4th. So it was like during that week period. So it was I think it's in the book. I've written down exactly what day it was. But so from March, April, May, June, like 3.5 months, right? From March 19th to the end of June, 3.5 months. Yeah, we were preparing. As a matter of fact, the reason why Randy told Ozzy, because it originally Speak of the Devil was supposed to be Speak of the Devil, the Black Sabbath recordings live in an arena.
Wow.
Interesting. Yeah.
Not the Diary of a Madman tour.
Yeah.
Right.
It was not supposed to be that, right? And Randy did not want to do it, did not want to take part of it. He did not want to, after 2 records of all original compositions with Ozzy, he didn't want to, Blizzard and Diary, he didn't want to, he felt it was going to take many steps back, and make this live recording of, a live performance of Sabbath material. He says, I don't want to do this, So it was in the works. It just so happens that Randy did not live long enough.
Yeah. So that's the reason they still call that Speak of the Devil, even though it isn't the same as the album, was because that was the initial idea, was for that live recording, video recording, to be the Black Sabbath set.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's huge news, actually.
I'm not telling you this. You're coming to that conclusion.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I have no clue why there's 2 Speak of the Devils.
Right. Yeah.
All I know is that there are 2 Speak of the Devils.
There's absolutely 2 Speak of the Devils, and they're totally different.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, that stage, though, on the Speak of the Devil live show, the one you guys used for the Diary of the Madman tour, that's the coolest stage in rock and roll history. Dan, do you agree?
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. And that's even before they got rid of the big hand that was dumping the meat out into the audience.
The big hand.
Yeah.
I have photos of the big hand.
Yep. That's where I saw it for the first time, was your book.
It's so cool. But the big hand did not really, the catapult that threw the meat into the audience did not work very well. Because there's 2 things. The fingertips of the gauntlet, that's smoke. Fire and smoke comes out of that. And then there was a catapult that would, like in medieval days, people used, you put a catapult with a dead cow, and you throw it into over the castle wall. Or oil, or whatever, to whatever they could think of to cause harm,
Yeah, anything.
Do anything, right? So after that gauntlet was axed, Sharon came up with the idea of giving Little John, the dwarf, a bucket of whatever was left over from catering, crew meal, and put it in the bucket. And during Paranoid, started my end of the stage and dragged the bucket across the stage, throwing whatever was in that bucket to the audience.
Oh my
goodness. And what happens every night, it's the laws of physics. whatever goes into the audience will come back on stage.
Come back.
Yeah. Especially, I got hit one time on my forehead with a piece of frozen liver, because a lot of the time there was nothing left in catering. So they would send out a runner to get, some tripes and liver and kidneys or whatever, whatever cheap stuff that they would get at the grocery, meat. And a lot of time it did not thaw out. It was still frozen.
Oh, my God.
That had to hurt.
Yeah, it did hurt. One time little John got knocked out. He got hit by a piece of meat that was frozen, and they had to drag him to the hospital and put stitches and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Rudy, thank you so much for your time. I will say,
Mike, thank you.
Any talk of recording new material with Quiet Riot?
Oh, yeah. We have a couple of surprises coming up that have already recorded. So they're just waiting to be released. We're going to release them in conjunction when we start touring in February.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rudy.
Thank you so much for your time,
man. And it's been an honor for the both of us for you to take the time to talk to us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Best of luck. Hopefully we'll see you on the road I'm in Phoenix. And when you guys come to Phoenix, I will definitely make my way out.
Yeah, Phoenix. And where you at?
I'm in Kentucky. Matter of fact, Quiet Riot played 15 minutes from my house just like in October, but it was still Chuck Wright was still on the band.
Yeah. I've only done 2 shows, so I'm looking forward to getting steady flow of gigs.
Yeah.
Well, you're in early, right? You wasn't supposed to start until 2022. Right?
Yeah, because this what happened is all the dates for 2022 get booked. I would say the bulk of it in the year before.
Yeah.
So we needed to make a presentation to the promoters and the agents of what the band is going to sound like, but we couldn't wait until next year because then we're not going to get any bookings. So we had to do it now. So we got 2 shows. And of course, the best marketing tool you have at any show is the fan-based video.
Right.
Because it's not fixed. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. You guys sound great.
Yeah.
So, excellent set list too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun. It's the fastest set I've ever played. Every song is just one. It's like, wow. It's like by the time I get to Mental Health, it's like, is this over? I can't believe it.
Hey, I saw you guys back in 2000 when you reunited with the classic lineup for the Guilty Pleasures album. Extremely underrated album, by the way. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Guilty Pleasures was so good.
Yeah.
I had Third Row, and I had on a Randy Rhoads t-shirt, and you gave me a big thumbs up. And I was only 20 years old, man. It meant the world to me. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and Kevin Dubrow gave me a thumbs up also for that.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Awesome.
Awesome. Got to meet you guys that night also. You guys did a meet and greet right after the sets back then. And it was a good time and definitely good memories.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you.
No, thank you, man.
Absolutely. We'll see you on tour for sure, Rudy. Stay healthy.
You too.
Stay healthy, sir. Take care. God bless you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. And we do edit the show, Rudy. So if at any moment you need to take a break to put it on charge, like we can cut all that out. No problem.
That's right. I always have my Depends on when I do a podcast.
I need to do that. Every time I have to cut them off in about 30 minutes and go, I got to use the bathroom. That's awesome.
With all the birthdays Dan's been having, he definitely needs to do that. We give him a hard time for being the statesman of the group. So.